great to be here. Thank you, City Church, for the invite. I was actually online last week. We were in Mexico in our home, and I thought, because churches change, churches, they're not always the same. I thought I better check City Church out and see if they're going up, if they're going down, just what's happening. So I was online last week. Matter of fact, I took a picture. I was online. I did take a picture, and I'm gonna throw that picture up on the screen real quick of me online at our house. Okay, so I'm online. You can see Doug. Duggar's down there. He come up. See Doug. I'm online. I'm worshiping. Holy. And Grandma is spiking balloon volleyball, spiking on the grandkids. So I'm worshiping Jesus. Grandma in her robe. When she gets that red robe out, look out. She's going to play some volleyball. Balloon volleyball, but I loved it. I was on, Doug kind of had this gig going with the chair and with this thing like this, and so I thought, well, that's what I'm gonna use. So I'm fired up, excited to be here today. I've got my beautiful wife Carla here in the front row. She didn't know I was gonna put that picture up. It took me a lot of hiding. Matter of fact, that's why I ran you out of the booth this morning. I said, you just go, I stay here. But I'm super glad to be here. City Church, love City Church. Had the privilege of being in Cedar Springs last night. Awesome city impact, awesome people. So hey, this morning, as you can see down here, I've got a message for you called Executive Summary. I don't know about you, but I like to cut to the chase. Anybody here like to cut to the chase? I like to, well, hold on. You guys, anybody like to cut to the chase? From what I understand, this is the first service, the first Sunday with just 2 services. So all the 8 o'clockers or 8 whatever, you had like an hour and a half more sleep. So I want to hear you. You're awake. The regular 9 somethings, they're like, whatever. And 11 o'clock, usually they're awake and rolling. So let me hear you. So I don't know about you, but I love to cut to the chase. I love things simple. I love for somebody to read. If I've got to read something, I'm like, Carla, you read it and just give me the executive summary. And so she'll read it. She's like, you don't need to know anything about that. Or she'll read it. She's like, look, and then she picks out what I need to know. So today, that's what I'm going to do for you. I've done all the homework. In this message today, when Pastor Doug invited me, well, actually, Pastor Doug, he's kind of tricky. He invited me about a month ago to be in the ministry school on Monday. And about 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, Juan, if you're going to be there on Monday, I know you're going to be in Grand Rapids the weekend, so what do you think about preaching on Sunday? I said, yeah, I'll preach on Sunday. Then about a week after that, he said, since you're going to be on Sunday, you're going to be on Saturday, so why don't you go to Cedar Springs on Saturday? I said, all right, so start on Monday, went Saturday. But so we got together, and I started thinking when he invited me on about a month ago, and for some reason, God just began to speak to me, which he doesn't always do, about this message. And I kept hearing one word, and it was like boom, 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 and it kept coming, and it kept coming, and it kept coming. I'm like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And matter of fact, once I started developing the message, I told Carla, I said, this is wild, but I am without a shadow of a doubt, in the last almost 40 years of ministry, I have no doubt that what I'm going to preach at City Church, Rockford, on May 4th, no, this is May 5th. Today's Cinco de Mayo. I don't know if you knew that, did you? May 5th means Cinco de Mayo. Are we supposed to be having tacos? Is there a taco truck coming at the... Ow! Should sing the Mexican national anthem or something like that. Just for your information, now I'm going way off crazy. For your information, Cinco de Mayo is like the smallest holiday in Mexico. It's like the war, is it like the Battle of Puebla or something like that? It's like nobody even knows what it is. Americans took it, they're like, we can commercialize this dude. Cinco de Mayo, baby, beer and tacos. And so All the Americans think this is that Mexico is just partying. Mexicans, they don't even know it's a holiday. Okay, Cinco de Mayo. So what was I saying? Okay, so I am convinced, without a shadow of a doubt, that this message is for today. For today. It could be for you. So I'm going to take something that could take forever, and I'm going to give you the executive summary, because I like people that just cut to the chase. So in 30 minutes, that clock says 31:28. In 30 minutes, I'm going to summarize to you the way God wants you to live your life. 30 minutes. And you might be thinking, what? Doug's been trying to do that for the last 20 years, and he ain't made that happen. Well, let me tell you what, 30 minutes is slow, because Paul, the Apostle Paul, did it in 20 words. 20 words. Okay, this is the context. The Apostle Paul, he's writing a letter to the Corinthian church. It's 1 Corinthians, which is a long book. And so I went through, and these are the subjects that he talks about in his letter, which is a book of the Bible. He talked about the cross. He talked about teamwork of the gospel. He talked about sin in the church. He talked about sex. He talked about marriage. He talked about grace and freedom. He talked about honoring God, spiritual gifts, love, speaking in tongues, the resurrection, the rapture. And Paul's wrapping up. He's just finishing up a few things in his letter. He's doing some housekeeping, as a matter of fact. That's the reason you've probably never read this, because if you read your Bible, once you get to Paul saying, okay, so so-and-so says hi, hey, I'm looking to send so-and-so to meet you, you're just like, this is done, I'm done, check. Finish the chapter. But if you read all the way down, all of a sudden, Paul just, boom, sets in that little housekeeping area, just this executive summary of how to live life in 20 words. And then he's just like, okay, adios. 20 words. And so I don't know how it happened. I can imagine, thought about this, I thought, wow, how in the world that happened? I can imagine it took Paul weeks to write the letter. And I can imagine he's finishing it up. He's like, all right, tomorrow I'll just put a stamp on this thing, boom, and send it to the Corinthian church. So he probably went to bed that night, woke up the next morning, and had this big thought in his mind. This thought of, this is the way, this is the summary of living life. And so he just wrote it down, and then, all right, this is me. And actually what he says is, this is me, Paul. I'm writing this with my own hands. Adios. Executive summary. So here we go. This is the last verse, or part of the last verses of 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13 and 14. 20 words, you can count them. Keep your eyes open. Hold tight to your convictions. Give it all you got. Be resolute. And love without stopping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 words. Wrapped it up. He said, all right, that's it. I wrote this in my own hands. I'm out of here. This is the way to live. So that's what we're going to look at. That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at today what Paul was talking about when he said, okay, this is just the executive summary. You don't have to be sophisticated. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to have this great education. Live like this. So let's get on with it. Let's start. The first thing Paul says, keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. First statement right out of the blocks, it's kind of a weird one. Because if Paul starts with the statement, keep your eyes open, okay, I'm going to ask you a question here. You're going to have to respond. If Paul starts with the statement, keep your eyes open, we can assume that most people sleep. That's a good answer. Somebody Nobody's with me. All right, I'm going to ask that question again. Okay, the answer to the question, and I didn't know I'd have to do this at City Church. I'm going to give you the answer. The answer to the question is the opposite of what Paul says. All right, so you got to think about that. Okay, so if Paul starts saying, keep your eyes open, we can all assume that the natural tendency of a human being in life is to close their eyes. Exactly. There is no reason that Paul would start out an executive summary saying, keep your eyes open. The only reason is because the natural tendency that you and I have in life is to close our eyes. Now, he's not talking about physically closing your eyes, even though that's a good answer, sleep. He's talking about closing our inner eye, what we see. That's what he's talking about. And there may have been a time in life when a person could live with their inner eye wide open and probably live life without seeing anything new or anything that challenged him and her. But today, that is impossible. The only way not to see a world that's full of challenges and needs, hurts, and pains is to close your eyes. And most people do. Pause. The only way to not see a world that's full of challenges and needs and hurt and pain is to close your eyes. And most people do. That's why Paul, right out of the chute, in this executive summary says, first thing, guys, live with your eyes open. Now, he's giving instructions to people that are following Christ. So if you're a Christ follower in this place this morning, these are instructions to you. Live with your eyes open. Open your eyes. See the world around you. Keep your eyes open. Now, the question is why? Why would he say that? Opposite of closing my inner eye to everything that's happening around me is to open my eyes. Why? Because when you live with your eyes open, something will catch your eye and capture your heart. That's the reason why. When you live with your eyes open, something will catch your eye and capture your heart. And that's what produces a purpose-focused life. Live with your eyes open. See. Feel. It could be sometimes we see something and our feelings are not good and fuzzy feelings. And so we think, no, I don't want to see those things. I don't want to have to see the hurt and the pain in people's eyes. Well, Paul said, no. You're here for a purpose. Keep your eyes open. Open your eyes, because something in life will grab your attention. And when it grabs your attention, I'm getting ahead of myself. When it grabs your attention, it'll take you to the next step. But I remember a year ago, exactly to the date, I was looking on my phone, exactly to the date in May, 1 year ago, we took a group. I work a lot with John Maxwell. Everything he does in Latin America and Spanish, I lead that. So we took a group of invited guests. John was there. We went to Sao Paulo, Brazil. Brazil's the third most populated nation in the world. Sao Paulo is the third most populated city in the world. About 18 million, about twice the size of Michigan, a city. And so we were there in Sao Paulo. We were doing different things. I decided we're going to go to a favela. A favela is a slum. There's many favelas in Brazil, about 5 to 10 million people living in like shanty towns. I thought, we're going to go to a favela where we're doing ministry, where we've got people that are bringing people together and teaching them values and being salt and being light, sharing Christ. And so I thought, we're going to go there. Well, this is the most dangerous favela in all of Brazil. So no police are there. There's no army. There's nothing, no protection, because it's run by godfathers. It's just the people there. They have their own laws. Nobody messes with them. And it's just millions of people living in conditions you can't even believe. So we were there, and I said, we're going to this favela because we're doing stuff there. So we went. On the way there, I can still remember, I thought, keep your eyes open, JV. Keep your eyes open, JV, because God's going to, something, because I know about this thing. Keep your eyes open. Because I don't know about you, but I want to live life with a purpose. So I went, kept my eyes open. We got together, and there were kids, and there were young kids, and even the godfather. Matter of fact, I've got some pictures, and there's the next picture of a man. That guy right there, that's the godfather. He's the one said, yes, you may come into this area, and I'll make sure I protect you all. Nothing will happen. So he's there, so we're hanging out, and he looks like a good dude right there, doesn't he? He's not. So he said we could come in, and we've probably got 150 people in this kind of this court, in the middle of the shanty town, and people were doing activities and this and that, and I thought, I need to get in. I need to see. So I walked into out of that little area and into the shanty town, and I got a few pictures here. That's where they live. They live above that's sewage going down through the middle of the shanty town, and you can go to the next one, and that's a road. That's a road. And as you walk, you look here, and there'll be people, and you look here, there'll be people, and you look here, there'll be people. Keep going. I think there's another one there. No, go back. All right, that's what I got there. So I'm walking through there, and as you can see, I took pictures. Of course, there's people there, and as soon as they would see me, they would duck in, and so I'd go by and just kind of touch their hand and whatever, and I real discreetly took a couple pictures, and I thought, wow, I can't believe this. All right, something's got to happen. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We got to help people. Got to help people. And so I was thinking, and all of a sudden, I walked back into the place, and now you can put that picture up. And I thought, and I thought God was going to have us help somebody else. But go to that next picture, and that girl right there. See that little Brazilian girl? Not the little one, but the young lady. She is the person that goes in every week into the most dangerous city of Sao Paulo, the most dangerous area, and she goes in with a smile on her face, and she goes up to the godfather. Hey, come on over here. Her name's Carol. And Carol, and all of a sudden, everything I had saw, I thought something else, and all of a sudden, God said, Carol's the one. So we blessed her and gave her an offering, and we're in the process of doing all kinds of, matter of fact, you did. Because City Church supports global outreach, which is our foundation, and we took a lump of money and said, all right, Carol, we want to empower you to do what you're doing, and boom. So you had part of what Carol was doing. See, because that's the reason Paul said, keep your eyes open. Do not live life with your eyes closed. If you live life with your eyes closed, there is no way you can live a purpose-filled life. I wrote this down in my notes. I don't think it'll go up on the screen, but it's worth either taking a note or thinking about it. The key to caring is seeing. The key to caring is seeing. You have never cared about something you haven't saw. Do you say saw or seen? Seen. I speak Spanish better than I speak English. You have never cared about something you have never seen. So the key to caring is seeing. That's what Jesus said. One day Jesus was with the disciples, and he just got finished talking to the Samaritan woman, and it's like, man, it's harvest time. Look at the people. He could see. And so Jesus said to the disciples, he said this, same exact phrase as Paul. He said, well, I'm telling you, this is John 4:35. Well, I'm telling you to open your eyes. There it is again, open your eyes. Take a good look at what's right in front of you. It's harvest time, boys. take a good look what's right in front of you. You usually don't have to look very far. You'll see something that captures your heart. And Paul goes on, next phrase in executive summary, hold tight to your convictions. Hold tight to your convictions. Obviously, this includes godly values and convictions, but Paul's talking about living a life of conviction. Open your eyes, hold tight to your convictions. Life lived with conviction looks very different than a life without conviction. You can see it. You can look at a person and you can see the way they walk, you can see the way they talk, you can see the way, you can see the energy in their life. You know whether it's a person of conviction or not. Because a life of conviction looks very different than a life without conviction. So this is how it works. This is what Paul's talking about. You live with your eyes open. You see something that captures your attention or captures your heart. Then you decide if it will become something that becomes one of your convictions for life. And I want to say exactly what I have written down here. That point, right there, you see, you keep your eyes open, you see, and boom, all of a sudden something captures your heart. That point creates the great divide between the way people live. In the Christian life, that separates the players from the pretenders. I'm just going to throw that out there. That's the great divide. You may be living life with your eyes closed. You don't even get there. But maybe you do have your eyes open, and there's things that you see, and it's like, man, I don't know, I would like to do something. But then it's like, nah, it's not going to become a conviction of my life. The great divide. Let me ask you a question. What has captured your heart and become a conviction of your life? God has something that he wants you to be convinced about and live for. He has something. He has something there. He wants you to be convinced. Not just something you believe. You know there's a big difference between, I believe that, and a conviction. Believe is just kind of passive. I believe that. I believe we should do this. I can believe that. That's belief. That's fine. But there's a different step, conviction. Conviction is, I believe that, I am convinced of that, and I'm going to do something about that. Conviction leads you to action. So what is that, keeping your eyes open, that has captured your heart and you have become convinced, I'm going to do something about that? That's what I'm talking about. And that's the word, conviction. That was the word for weeks. God kept speaking to me saying, I want you to talk to City Church about conviction. Conviction, conviction, conviction. I'm just like, dude, I don't have any message on conviction. Well, I didn't say dude. I said, Lord, dude. I said, Lord, dude, I don't have any, and I'm reading my Bible, and it's like, he's like, all right, dude, I'll take you there. So I'm reading my Bible, and it's like, wow, and it's got the word conviction. That's it. Executive summary. He wants you to open your eyes. He wants you to see something. He wants you to be convinced about something. Something that you say, my life is going to be about that. And it could be a favela in Brazil. It could be your neighborhood. It could be your church. It could be your business. You got to be convinced about something. Something that you say, I'm all out. I'm all in so I can go all out, basically. Is there something in life beyond yourself that you're convinced about to the point of giving all you have to make it happen? That's a conviction. And that's what Paul was talking about when he said, hold tight to your convictions. He was like, open your eyes. Something's going to catch your eye. And make it a part of your conviction in life. Go all out into that thing. What are you convinced about? What are those things that grab your heart and you make the decision, I'm going to be a player and not a pretender. I'm all in. I love the story. A lot of y'all watch basketball in the playoffs are on. Ernie Johnson. Ernie Johnson's one of the commentators on TNT. And he's there with Shaq and with Charles Barkley and Kenny Jett, and they got all kinds of games in this. I love his story. They have 6 kids. And his story is, he tells the story because his son I'm going to talk about was highlighted on ESPN and all this stuff. So they wanted to adopt a child. So Ernie sent his wife Cheryl to Romania with instructions. They had decided we're going to adopt a little Romanian girl. And so she went to the orphanage to find a little Romanian girl. They had done everything they needed to do. Cheryl showed up back home with a little handicapped boy named Michael. Michael lived 32 years. And Cheryl said this. Showed up home. Ernie's like, where's our little girl? And she's got this little handicapped boy. And she said, Ernie, this boy's gonna need so much from us. But I could not live the rest of my life asking the question, whatever happened to that little blonde boy that we left in the orphanage? You may know the story. You may have seen it and saw Michael. And later on in years, I loved it because it was kind of reminded me of our little Timmy. Our little Timmy lived 32 years just like Michael did, and then he passed away about the same time Michael did. And so there was just something there, and I thought, that's it. Cheryl went with her eyes open, and something caught her heart. And she said, I am convinced. It doesn't matter what I thought. That is what God has opened my eyes to. That's conviction. That's what I'm talking about. Paul's executive summary is live with your eyes open, and God's going to show you something. And never think, I'm looking at a crowd here and I see some gray-haired people, and I've got some family here, and some are up in their 90s and 80s and this and that, and you may be thinking, yeah, well, this is for the young folk. Yeah, well, I'm past that time. You're just getting started. Last week, Carl and I were in Mexico City. We were sitting down with a mentor of ours, 101 years old. He'll be 102 in August. Wayne Myers, missionary for over 80 years. You know, Wayne sat there and he preaches every Sunday. He's like, the fire, he can't talk loud, and he's just, Johnny, God, I love you. I'm still here because I still got purpose. He said, I preach every Sunday. He said, God's using us. I said, Carol, give me the translation of that thing. I'm like, dude, I got to hear you preach on Sunday. He said, I store up energy all week long. I'm ready for Sunday. He said, and I looked at him, I thought, dude, that fire still burns at 101 years old. Don't tell me you can't have purpose. I don't care how old you are. Paul said, live with your eyes open. Live with your eyes open. Let me show you something. Do something. Live convinced until the last breath. I remember, and I've told you this story before, I remember the first time in Cuba, and I'm going to condense the story because I told you 30 minutes executive summary, and we got like 4 steps to go. Don't worry about the last 3. I like, boom, boom, boom. Knock those out. First time I was in Cuba, I was in Soviet Union 1989, and God spoke to me about Cuba. I didn't know where Cuba was. 1991, Soviet Union had fallen. Cuba lost all its subsidy. There's nobody going to the island. Nobody's eating on the island. There's no gas. Everybody's walking. The only people that are going to the island are men from South America and Europe. Because of the need there was basically legal prostitution. So I went with my best friend, and we were going to do a pastor's, it was illegal, but it was a pastor's event, and it was a 3 days pastor's event. We showed up, and it lasted 1 hour. So the Cuban police showed up. They put a stop to it, sent us to our hotel. That wasn't time I got thrown in jail. That was later. But they sent us to our hotel, and that's a different story. I can't tell the story. Sent us to our hotel and said, okay, we've got police in the lobby. You may not leave until your flight to leave on Thursday. That was 5 days from the day we were there. I'm like, there ain't no way I'm sitting in this hotel room with you. His name was Chico. There ain't no way I'm sitting in this hotel room with you for 5 days. We out of here. So I concocted a plan. Next day, we went down these back steps of the hotel, went out this side door, found another hotel where they didn't know, just this other hotel. Called back there weren't cell phones. At least I didn't have a cell phone. And called Carl on the phone. And I said, hey, the plans have changed. I need you to call so-and-so and so-and-so. I know they have people here on the island, and I want to meet some people. So I call you back in 3 hours. So we went and got lost for 3 hours, went back to that same hotel. Called the Carla. She said, okay, I got some names. Give me the names. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Next day, busted back into the hotel. Next day, busted back out of the hotel. And Chico and I walked 13 kilometers, about 8 miles, and found this place. Because you couldn't take a taxi. There were a few taxis. There was hardly no cars, a few taxis. But all the taxis were informants to the government. So if you got in a taxi, they're going to tell, hey, Vereecken's over there at that guy's house. Hey, come and arrest me. So we walked, got there, and developed, and this is a long story, but developed this relationship with a man that became one of my best friends. And yeah. So about 3 days later, his name's Alejandro. Alejandro took me at that I was alone with him, and he took me downtown Havana and said, I just want you to see the city. I want you to understand Havana and what's happening here and the dire needs of the people. First time in Cuba, and I had my eyes wide open. And I remember sitting in the corner of a park, and I was talking to Alejandro, and all of a sudden a man walked up, and Cubans have a Caribbean accent. I have more of a Mexican accent. And so immediately the person walked up to me and said, are you a tourist? I said, yes. He didn't know why I was there or what I was doing. And he took a step back, and he pointed to a woman that was behind him, and he said, we have 3 children. They haven't eaten in 2 days. He said, if you'll give us food, I'll give you my wife to spend the night with her. He didn't know why I was there. He probably thought I was just another one of the men that are flying in that country. I talked to Alejandro, and tourists could get into a special store where there were a few grocery items. So I said, can we do it? He said, yes. I went into that store. I think I had $83 on me. Spent $83 on rice, on beans, on sugar, on coffee, and cheese, a couple other things. Took them a couple bags, gave it to them, talked to them about the love of Christ. God loves you, this and that. Boom, sent them off home to feed their children. And I remember that night, I was in this little room in the middle of Havana, Cuba. Nobody knew that I was there besides my friends and God. And I was like, God, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I didn't like the feeling of that need that was so great, and to feel people that are so desperate. Why did you let me see that? And I remember saying that. Why did you let me see that? And I can still remember, he said, because I want you to do something about it. Came back home, I still remember talking to Carla. I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just saw something that'll never, ever leave my life. And we're going to work, and we're going to do everything we can do for Cuba. 33 years later, I've been to Cuba hundreds of times. I've been in prison in Cuba. I've went hungry in Cuba for days. I've worked. I've slept on church benches and on floors and in heat you can't believe. We've got underground Bible schools. We support pastors. We support pastors that eat because they're back to where they were after COVID. Cuba was worse off than the early 90s. They're 90 miles off the shore of Florida. And people ask, why do you keep doing stuff for Cuba? And the only thing I can think is, boy, you haven't seen what I've seen, and you haven't heard what I've heard. Because when you see it and you're convinced of it, something happens. That's what Paul was talking about. He said, live with your eyes open. And then hold fast. That thing that you become convinced about, hold fast to your convictions. I can still remember, we've got, I'm the president of this church network up here that you all are part of. It's about 100 churches. But really, in Latin America, I planted a church, and we have 4 churches. Saltillo, Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico, Mexico City, Mexico, and Maracaibo, Venezuela. And I'm not even a pastor. I am as far from being a pastor as you can imagine. Imagine having me as a pastor. Of course, you guys got Doug, so. What I said really doesn't work here. I love Doug. Doug and Karen are wonderful people. I just love Doug. Anytime I can spend time with Doug, it's like, hey, let me get some Doug time because that guy is crazy. I can still remember I was in Barquisimeto, Venezuela in 2003. And I spoke to about 400 business people, men and women. It was just a business event. And at the end of the event, these people were just engaged. So at the end of the event, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hold a special session. And we're going to, I said, I'm going to share my faith. Because many people would walk up and say, what is it about you? You're different. Some will walk up, you're a Christian, aren't you? I say, yeah. Because I didn't share my faith during that time, and we held a special, just kind of a special, if you want to stay, I'll take a few minutes and share my faith. I shared my faith, and hundreds raised their hand. They say, if God's like that, I want to know your God. And then I can still remember, a man walked up and said, okay, I said that prayer with you, what's my next step? And I remember telling him, you need to find a good church. And he jumped back, he said, no way, I've had that experience already. No way. Those people are crazy. And he was talking about traditional charismatic churches in Latin America and Venezuela, and they're nuts. They do a bunch of crazy things. I don't blame them, but I can still remember he jumped back and said, no, a church, no. I want to know God, but I don't want to go to a crazy church like that. I got on the airplane that night, and I'm flying from Buenos Aires, Argentina, to Mexico City. It's about a 9-hour flight. And I'm up in the air, and I'm looking out over the ocean, because it kind of swung out and back in, right along the coast there. I'm looking out over the ocean, and I can see that man's face jump back and say, no, a church, no. And I thought, God? Why did I see that? He said, because I want you to do something about it. I came back home, I said, guess what, God, we're starting a church. She's like, a church? And who's going to pastor? Because you ain't a pastor. I'm like, we're starting a church. I said, I don't know what, but I said, we've got to start something that people that don't like church can like church. In 2004, boom, we kicked it off, and now amongst our campuses, we've got 3,500 people coming to church. It's all about seeing and being convinced. What are you convinced about? Are you living your life with some type of conviction, whatever that is? It is a business. This business has to go because through this business, we're going to touch thousands of people. This has to happen. What are you living with? Third thing Paul says, give it all you got. Okay, so he says, live with your eyes open. Don't close your eyes in life. Live with your eyes open. Okay, you're going to see something. It's going to capture your heart, and then you're going to have a conviction. He says, hold fast to your conviction. Then he says, give it all you got. Give it all you got. How much of an explanation do you need? There's not much explanation there. It's just like, give it all you got means, now hit the gas. You know, there's a lot of people that have hit the gas in their life, and they've got a lot of activity going, but they don't have a conviction. And you know what happens? You'll run out of gas. That's burnout. Activity without purpose equals burnout. Today we talk about, we've got emotional and mental challenges, and people are burned out, and they're like, you know what burnout is? Burnout is putting the gas down, going all out, but not having a conviction of your heart. It's like we're doing all these things, but what am I accomplishing? Please back up. Don't keep going. Stop. Pause. Because the only thing you're going to do is just burn out. It's activity without purpose. Activity without purpose. Give it all you got. Give your time. You have a conviction. Give your time. Give your treasure. Give your talent. Paul's talking about a focused life. Once you have focus, then hit the gas. Then hit the gas. Carla and I this year we'll have been married 40 years. Been in Mexico 39 years. People ask me, hey, Juan, when you going to retire? Hey, you got some land up north, I never retired does not exist in my vocabulary. 40 years, I'm just getting started. I was sitting there with Wayne Myers, 101 years old. I'm like, I got 40 years to get to where he's at. You kidding me? I'm just getting jacked up. Why? Conviction, conviction, conviction. What are you convinced about in life that you say, I will keep going? It's worth, kids, come on, let's go. Get on the bus. Get on the bus. You're going to follow my conviction until you get your own. Then you can get off the bus. You want to have, that is a class on how to raise kids. Get on the bus. You're going to live with purpose. And when you find your own purpose, then you get off and you get your own bus. And then you make your own bus. And you make your own kids. You have some grandkids. Live with your eyes open. Hold on your convictions. Give it all you got. Be resolute. Live without stopping. Love without stopping. You know, the word love here is a verb. It's not like love, feeling butterflies and flowers. It's love, it's action. So listen real close. Live with your eyes open. God will talk to you about something he wants you to be convinced about. Grab onto that thing. Put the pedal to the metal. Give it all you got. Be resolute. Never give up. And by doing that, you will love without stopping. How are you loving this world? That's my question. Because the way God wants you to love this world is by living your conviction. We don't focus a lot of times. We just talk about, well, you're supposed to love everybody. Yeah, you are. You should love and value everybody. But how should you love this world? By living the conviction of your heart. If you'll live all out that conviction, you will love without stopping. Keep your eyes open. Hold on your convictions. Give it all you got. Be resolute, and you'll love without stopping. That's the way God wants you to live. Will you bow your heads with me? Okay, this is going to be quick. This is going to be quick. I'm going to let you self-correct. No altar call, no hands up, no nothing. You get to sit right there and self-correct. If in any one of these points, you're like, hey, I'm living with my eyes closed. Okay, stop right there. It's like, okay, God, I decide today I'm going to live with my eyes open. If you don't have conviction and you're like, I've seen a lot of things, but I have never allowed it to become a conviction of my heart. It's like, God, show me one more time, and I promise you, I will be convinced. Then you can go all out, you can be resolute, and that's the way you love this world. So I'm going to pause about 20 seconds. I want you to evaluate your life. Self-correct. Self-correct. You don't need anybody to take you by the hand. God's spoken to your heart. You self-correct. And then we're going to sing one last song and finish up. Father, thank you for my beautiful, wonderful, awesome friends here at City Church. Lord, I thank you. I have no doubt that you had a plan to talk about conviction this morning. I have no doubt, Father, that you've spoken to people. I have no doubt that people have self-corrected and have put themselves on a path to live life the way Paul summarized it to us. at the end of 1 Corinthians. I thank you for their lives. I ask that you bless them. Father, I ask that you help us to live that out now in Jesus' name. Amen.